at Zoho, we have contract documents that are 180 pages long.
Can I populate a subform to Zoho Contract?
And they don't have to toggle between multiple applications to manage their contracts. So together, Contracts and Sign as a contract management platform can actually revolutionize how you manage contracts.
Arjun, thank you very much for inviting me to your office to discuss Zoho Contracts. How are you today?
I'm good, and thank you for coming to the office. It's our pleasure hosting you here, Lior.
It's amazing. Chennai is amazing, and then the campus here is insane. So productive and so many people, and being at the Zoho campus is just completely different world. So thank you for inviting me.
I can totally imagine, but how do you like the traffic?
The traffic is crazy, but the place is amazing. It's just a fantastic experience. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Awesome. We are glad you loved it.
So today we are going to talk about Zoho Contracts, which is a product that most of the Zoho users don't really understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's worthwhile talking about the product and when this product needs to be used.
If I were to give a very short description of what Zoho Contracts is, so Zoho Contracts is a comprehensive contract management solution. And with Zoho Contracts, I say comprehensive because it increases your efficiency across all aspects of contract management. So that's Zoho Contracts in a nutshell. But if you want to understand who Zoho Contracts is useful for, any business who is managing more than 50 to 100 contracts, or any business that's signing 5 to 10 contracts in a month will actually manage 120 contracts in a year. So in 3 years, that is 360 contracts.
But what contract means? Is it an agreement, SOW? The definition of a contract, what is a contract?
Okay, so let's put it like this. So a contract is basically a bunch of promises, and it's an official document that's legally binding, right? So when you have any kind of agreement with another party and you want that agreement to be legally binding in a court, that is a contract, right? So any of these documents can be managed using Zoho Contracts.
NDA, SOW,
product sales agreement, subscription
everything.
agreement, employment agreement, procurement agreements, both on the buy side and on the sell side. So Zoho Contracts is industry agnostic and function agnostic, which means you can manage both your buy side contracts and your sell side contracts in Zoho Contracts.
Why use Zoho Contracts and not just using Zoho Sign?
So I will just take one step back and go to the contract lifecycle, right? So in a typical organization, you will have a legal counsel or somebody who will help you set up your basic documents, right? How will your organization's sales agreements look like? How will your organization's procurement agreements look like? So you have these templates. Right now you have these templates as a document, right? And then whenever your sales department requests for a contract or your procurement department requests for a contract, you first go to these folders, disparate folders where these contracts are sitting. And sometimes people do not know what is the latest version of the contract, right? They change the details manually, which gives you the scope for error because it's human beings doing these corrections, right? And then sometimes if you do not have like a workflow mandated, if you don't have an approval workflow, critical contracts can go to the customers or the vendors without an approval layer. This introduces risk into the system. And then you are negotiating these contracts. Right now, negotiations usually happen as a Word document that is sent as an attachment in an email, and then there are multiple email threads back and forth. We have, at Zoho, we have contract documents that are 180 pages long, right? Imagine if you're going through an email thread where this 180-page document is sent back and forth,
Not fun.
and this is the 10th cycle of negotiation, it can get super crazy. And then once all of this is done, you sign the contract. And for this signature part, we have Zoho Sign. Zoho Sign is solid, it is legally binding, it is compliant to all of the global regulations, most of the global regulations, right? So Zoho Sign is a solid part that solves our signature part. But after signature, what is a contract? We made a bunch of promises. Now all of these promises have to be fulfilled, right? So if you are my customer and I made a bunch of promises, if you're my partner, I made a bunch of promises, and each of this promise has to be delivered by someone else in the team. So these obligations can be tracked separately in the context of the contract. It can be assigned to the business owner who will have to actually deliver on that contract obligation. So all of that post-execution part, and also contracts are never static, right? So when you have a
Let's stay in
contract,
that point for 1 second.
yes,
So let's assume that I will have two components in the agreement. Component number one will be services, and another component will be subscription. Subscription will be dealt with the support team, while the other one will be with the execution team. Each one of them will receive different requirements once the agreement is signed,
exactly.
and how those instructions or those details are going to be sent.
Okay, so you have your contract management platform. Contracts are not silos that are sitting inside just legal, right? Contracts, as a owner, legal team can own it. But for a contract to be compliant to the languages in the contract, a lot of departments are working on it. There is a sales department working on it. There's a support department working on it. There is a delivery department working on it, right? And there are different clauses inside of the contract that is attributed to these individual departments, right? So in Zoho Contracts, there is an individual contract. You have like a training clause in your agreement, and this training clause is assigned to the training team as an obligation.
I see.
And there is a reminder. These obligations can be one time, these can be recurring. There are reminders for it. So that is how you are ensuring compliance to the contract languages at the contract level, right? So that is the obligation part. And going back to the earlier life cycle that I was speaking about, where we talked about templates, we talked about collaboration, we talked about approvals, negotiations, signature. Now, if we look at a contract rarely stays stagnant, right? Every year, contracts are amended, they are renewed, they are terminated, they are extended. You want multiple things to be changed. You want to negotiate terms based on what makes sense to you. So all of this post-execution part is also very, very part of the contract lifecycle, right? So if you want to manage something end-to-end, right from a contract request, templatization and all of the whole thing until a contract is terminated or renewed at the end of its life cycle, you will have to use Zoho Contracts. And as we are managing the end-to-end life cycle in Zoho Contracts, the signature part is powered by Zoho Sign, right?
That's behind the scene. No one needs to take it to Zoho Sign. It's just being done like mail merge and all the other applications.
Exactly. Zoho Contracts is like a bundle. It comes bundled with Zoho Sign. So you don't have to go to sign.zoho.com to sign your contract. But like I earlier mentioned, if you are having agreements and contracts that you want to manage, if you want all of them in a single repository, you can use Zoho Contracts. But if you have other codes or like invoices, or you have some policy documents that need to be signed, these are not agreements, but these are other documents where a signature is necessary. So for these purposes, you can then go on to sign.zoho.com and still get them done there and have like a repository of the things that you got signed in sign.zoho.com.
Right, and you can use obviously some automation, mail merge. There are endless ways that you can.
Exactly. So sign is also very powerful. You can use mail merge.
Super powerful, yeah.
Yeah. So you can use mail merge to bring in data from other tools into the signed document, and then you can send it for signature. And then there are different modes of collecting signature. So yeah. So together, Contracts and Sign as a contract management platform can actually revolutionize how you manage contracts. So for example, our customers report at least a 70% increase in efficiency of their legal team in this particular context of contract management, right? So how do you measure the health of a contract management process? That's a good place to start. There is this metric called cycle time. That is, when a department requests for a contract, how long does it take for the signature to happen? That is a good metric to track. If you have your system in place, if there is a clearly defined template library with clause languages that can alternate, that teams can alternate between, if there is a self-service model, they can get these contracts at one place, they can send it for approval very quickly, negotiate and get it signed quickly, then that is a healthy contract management process. But right now, this might sound like a linear process, but there is a lot of back and forth, and contract management is a real pain for most organizations.
For sure. So a corporation will have few documents. Those documents that will need to be signed will be in Zoho Contracts as templates.
Yes.
When I need to make changes on those templates, they will be updated, but I won't have multiple contracts. I will have one contract with multiple revisions.
Yes.
So I can go back and see what was changed. But still, if I need to sign a document, I am signing an up-to-date version versus signing, oh shit, I updated or I signed the wrong document.
Exactly. So the best part is, Lior. So you have, say you have 20 sales people in your team. There are a couple of people in the legal team who are ensuring that the contracts are up to date. And in the current business landscape, regulations are coming up
All the
frequently.
time. Yeah.
And your business models are so flexible that you're changing your terms so often. So you should just change these things in one place. And the sales team should not be constantly thinking about whether they are using the latest template. If they are taking the template from a central library, and if the system mandates them to use it only the latest version, then you can be absolutely sure that you're risk free, right? So you can mitigate a lot of risks that are involved with using wrong contract languages.
Okay. So once I have the contract, let's assume that this is a deal. So I'm signing a new customer. Is there an integration with Zoho CRM to initiate this contract?
Yeah, so we have an integration with Zoho CRM. So if you think about it, when you are engaging with a lead and the lead is showing promise, and if you think a deal is imminent, you will have to sign an NDA, or if you have a master service agreement, whatever, right?
Yes.
So you will have to request a contract. So since Zoho CRM already has all of that information about the lead, it doesn't make sense for you to again create or enter all of that information into Zoho.
Yeah, like DocuSign that you need to go and put in the templates. It's a waste of time.
Right? So what you can do is, once you have enabled the integration of Zoho Contracts and Zoho CRM, inside the deal module, you will have this option called request contract. It's a button. So you click on the request contract button. All the details that are relevant for that contract from Zoho CRM is fetched. It is automatically mapped into the Zoho Contracts fields. A contract document is created based on the template that you're choosing. If it is an NDA, based on the NDA template that you're configured in contracts, the details are fetched from CRM, dropped inside Zoho Contracts. A contract document is generated. It is assigned to that specific legal representative that you want it to be assigned to. You can set assignment rules. And
Can it be also salesperson or
anybody?
Anybody.
You can
so
decide
any
how it
user in the
happens.
system.
Yes.
Okay.
Right? So now you have a contract document in Zoho Contracts. This contract document is also available as an attachment in the CRM record. And then you have this related list called Zoho Contracts, where all the contracts that you sent to this particular deal or the account is available there, along with the status. Where is it standing right now? The salesperson will know this contract is currently in the negotiation stage, this contract is currently in the approval stage, and they can also take steps. If a contract is approved, they can initiate the negotiation. If a contract is negotiated and complete, they can initiate a signature. So now you give a lot of power for the sales people, and they don't have to toggle between multiple applications to manage their contracts.
Got it. So I will send the agreement. So I will go click on the button, send the agreement. Can you also have APIs with this product so that can be automatically done? So when the lead is converted, automatically initiate NDA template to be sent to someone?
Yes, we do have open APIs available. So we have detailed API documentations as well. So even with products that we do not have an out-of-the-box integrations with, you can build your own integration, right? This is the basic premise of any integration with a contract management software. So if you have multiple functions and different types of contracts that you need to create in Zoho Contracts, you will be able to do that with our APIs.
Fantastic. So let's say lead is being converted, an NDA or will be sent automatically, or I will click on the buttons and I will initiate.
Okay, so right now, how it happens is we have this workflow that is set, right? So once the contract is created, it then goes through approval, negotiation, and signature. But you can define what are the contract types that you do not want an approval workflow. It just has to go for signature.
Just send, yeah.
Yeah, so in those cases, you can completely skip the approval and the negotiation part and send it for signature. But in other contract types where you have configured an approval workflow, it has to go through that approval workflow.
Of course.
And then it has to go for signature. So you request for a contract, the contract document is created, and if there is no approval workflow, and if you want to skip the negotiation, you can skip it and directly send for signature. So it will be 2 actions and not 1, like you mentioned. This is because there would be some kinds of deals where you want it to go for an approval workflow, and this is a good way to make it like an automated workflow, because whenever they request for a contract, it then goes for an approval and then it goes for signature.
So in that case, whenever the agreement is sent, the customer, for example, will sign or they will just ignore me. In that case, I assume based on the status of the contract, I can initiate emails and text messages to wake them up.
Exactly. That is
Okay.
possible. Yes.
And then there is a signature or negotiations,
Yes.
right? And what do you do with the negotiations? So let's say the negotiation is not in my level as a salesperson, the negotiation needs to go a little bit higher. What do I do in this case?
Okay, so when you create your contracts platform, right? So you have added multiple users. Some are from the legal team and some are people from the sales department who can take calls on commercial terms and legal people who can take calls on risk and the compliance terms, right? So now whenever a contract goes for negotiation, the counterparty has a set of requirements. So they want this clause language to be edited to a certain way so that they can agree. So now you have two options. You are either okay with that change or you're not okay with that change. You have the option to comment, right? So as the contract owner, you have complete control over what is happening in the contract document. The counterparty is redlining the contract document. Later you can accept or reject those changes, and there is a comment section where you can negotiate with the counterparty in the comments as replies and whatnot. And if a contract negotiation is going for multiple cycles, say you are in the 5th cycle of negotiation and it is like a 50-page document.
Fun.
Yeah, so much fun, right? So you need a feature or a capability that can compare the first version that they sent with the current version that you're negotiating. Because you don't have to go through this 50-page document again and again and again on the 5th cycle of negotiation.
That's huge.
Yeah, so you only want to know what has been changed, and has the changes that I already asked in the first cycle been done, and whatever is current and whatever needs my attention, you just take a look at that. And so in this level we are saving you a lot of time because you are not going through the entire document, and this is entirely happening in one platform where you are collaborating with the counterparty on one platform instead of having multiple email threads enabling this conversation.
And what if I need to involve more people in the decision-making process? So you're asking for a 25% discount. We're already talking about it for 5 times. Obviously, it's not going away. Can I send it to someone else from the organization for approval or for review?
Yes. Yes, that is possible. So it's possible on both sides, right? In your side, it is pretty much simple, right? You are just going to add more collaborators to this contract document so that they can get access to this particular contract document. From the counterparty side, also we give this option. So you are sending a contract to your counterparty, and this counterparty does not need to have a Zoho account. They do not have to have a Zoho Contracts license, but they can still negotiate on this contract document, right? So this is on the counterparty side. So now from the counterparty side, you have one primary contact who is negotiating with you. That primary contact can also add other reviewers that they want to be able to take a look at this contract document and suggest changes and take final calls. So that is completely possible.
Whenever there is a signature, the document is being copied with like a PDF in the attachment sections in the CRM.
Yes.
Okay, and then I can review it and so on.
Yes, exactly. So for example, what happens is when a salesperson is requesting for a contract, the contract document is generated in Zoho Contracts and a copy is available inside Zoho CRM as well for the salesperson to see a particular clause if they want to, right? The same thing also happens after a contract is signed. So the moment a contract is signed, you will have an attachment of the signed copy because the signed copy is the actual legal document that you want.
Right.
And we will also have this digital signature certificate inside of Zoho Contracts. This digital signature certificate is basically authenticating the legality of that signature itself. So when you actually take it to the court, touch wood, we will never go there.
Right.
But if you go there, you have a digital footprint of when exactly this contract was signed, and after that, no change has been happened.
With the IP, the time, everything that's legally required.
Yeah.
So bottom line, if I just need to sign something that is a one-way, quick and easy, no revisions, no negotiations, that would be Zoho Sign. Upload the document, send it, or a template. But when it's a little bit more than that, anything to do that might be negotiations, might be revisions, God forbid, 40 or 50 pages agreements with back and forth, I do see how Zoho Contracts can be a very, very good tool to use.
I would put it like this. So if you want all of your contracts in one central repository, you are not just talking about the efficiency gains that you are getting from streamlining this process, you are also getting an additional insight layer, right? You have 300 contracts that you signed last year. If you want to know how many contracts are NDAs and how many contracts are MSAs and how many contracts are procurement agreements, if you have all of that contracts in Zoho Contracts, the analytics will give you those insights. And if you also want to know what are the contracts that are stagnating in the approval process, or what are the contracts that are stagnating in the signature process, you have those insights also in the analytical module. The best thing about a CLM software is it's also making you future ready. So at some point in time, if the Canada government introduces a new data protection law, this data protection law will mandate all businesses to go do a review of their existing contracts, an audit of their existing contracts, and update any contract that has a data protection clause to a certain standard. Now, if you ask any business, how many contracts do they have active versus expired, and how many of those contracts has a data protection clause, how will a business do it?
Yeah, it's pain.
It's very difficult, right? But it's painful. And the failure is also very costly because it is non-compliance. It puts a dent on your brand. So the cost is not just financial, it is also reputational, right? So when you have all of your contracts just sitting in one system, it saves you a lot of time and it gives you a lot of peace. So we are in the business of selling peace. So if you have all of your contracts in one place, and if you want to know how many contracts has a data protection clause, it's just a report. You just select a report that says clauses versus contracts, and it will say 56 contracts has a data protection clause. You click on that, you get the list of 56 contracts, you go there and amend them to whatever is the new standard. You can't do this
Awesome.
otherwise, right? So this is the primary benefit that a CLM gives you.
Last question for you. In some cases, there will be in the deal module. So when I'm signing the deals, there will be multiple products in a sub form. Can I populate a sub form to Zoho Contracts?
Currently, this is not possible right away. However, we are working on deepening our CRM integration. So if you look at where we are going, even Zoho as an entire brand, we are looking to make our products speak to each other much more seamlessly. So we are working on very, very deep integrations in the CRM aspect. And when we cover that, we definitely have these things on our pipeline. So if you have like a product table, can you just move it there? Kind of like a CPQ capability right within Zoho Contracts as well. So those are areas where we are still working on. You will definitely see them shortly in Zoho Contracts.
Now we are using a mail merge for that. So we do mail merge and then send it with Zoho Sign all automatically.
Yeah. So those are things that are coming, Lior, and we will have some news for you soon.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much for having me. I'm in. I like Zoho Contracts.
Awesome.
So for sure, I'm going to implement it in my businesses.
Definitely. Awesome, Lior. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.